Hi, it's Artemis Paint from Exploitative In this video, I'm going to talk about what to do when NITs get aggressive. So let's start by understanding some characteristics of NITs. NITs do not generally bluff raise on the flop. In fact, NITs do not generally bluff raise full stop. So when a normal player raises on the flop, his hand strength usually falls into three possible categories. Firstly, super strong hands, which are hands that are 2-pair or better. Secondly, semi-bluffs, and that's draws. And thirdly, outright bluffs. With top pair and over pairs, most players try to get value while also controlling the size of the pot. Players might try to bet big with top pair on later streets if they read their opponent as having a weaker hand. However, players seldom attempt to bloat the pot on the flop with top pair. You should usually assume, in the case of a NIT, that the raise represents 2-pair or better. As I'll explain in a minute, NITs do not play many draw hands. Although NITs do bluff, they don't bluff often. And NITs bluffs are usually confined to situations where they have the lead in the hand and they c-bet, or when their opponent has shown weakness by checking. So the NIT range. Compared to calling stations, NITs have very few draws in their range. The typical NIT range includes ace-king, ace-queen and pocket pairs. In this range, only ace-king suited and ace-queen suited can have flush draws on the flop. This means that on the flop, there are only two combos of flush draws in the NIT range. If the NIT is in late position or in the big blind, he may open up his range a bit. In late position, I would expect a NIT to include high-suited connectors to his range. However, he won't go crazy and play a lot of suited connectors. So, as a general rule, you should assume that when a NIT gets aggressive, when you have the lead in the hand, he has a hand that is 2-pair or better. Therefore, your strategy should be to fold top pair or anything weaker to any serious show of strength. And you'll seldom be wrong using this strategy. And even players who know this strategy go wrong. As for poker gurus that I've seen demonstrating how to play microstakes, well, they're actually the worst. So let's have a look at some hand examples. So in hand example 1, hero raises pre-flop on the button with ace of hearts, king of diamonds. The NIT just calls from the small blind and the big blind folds. When the NIT just calls in the small blind, hero should be reasonably sure that his opponent has a pocket pair. The NIT is unlikely to be calling with a suited connector, as he'd probably know that these types of hands don't work well when you're out of position. If the NIT had a premium hand, you'd expect him to 3-bet to discourage the big blind from calling, so we can generally rule premium hands out here. So anyway, the big blind does fold, and the flop comes down ace of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 2 of hearts. The NIT donk bets the pot. Despite having top pair top kicker, hero should fold here. This is a big donk bet and there's no ambiguity here. A large donk bet means that the NIT wants to get the pot going. A NIT would only bet this large with a hand that he was close to 100% sure he was winning. He almost definitely has a set of 10s or 2s. The mistake that a lot of players make is to call the flop bet and reassess the situation on the turn. In this case, you'll almost always be faced with another pot size bet on the turn. You'll save money in the long run if you fold the hand earlier rather than later. And it can get worse if you call. When you decide to call and reassess, and your hand gets stronger on the turn, you're usually in big trouble. For example, if the turn card is an ace or a king, it will give hero, trips or two pair respectively. The nit will still have hero beaten, and if the turn card is an ace, the nit will have a full house. A lot of players will end up stacking off in this situation. They'll kid themselves that they probably have the better kicker because they've got the king with the ace. And this is how one mistake can lead to a disaster. So let's look at another hand example. Hand example 2 plays out the same as hand example 1, except the nit check raises on the flop. So hero raises pre-flop, the nit calls, and the big blind folds. The flop is slightly different from the previous hand. The flop is ace of clubs, 10 of hearts, and 2 of hearts, which means that there's a flush draw on the board. The nit checks, hero bets, and the nit raises to $15. Again, the nit probably has a set. On the flop, a nit won't usually check raise with a draw. This is because check raising draws doesn't give the free card option on the turn. As I've already mentioned, the nit is unlikely to play a draw hand from the small blind. So hero should fold for exactly the same reasons that he folds to a large donk bet on the flop. So let's look at one more hand. In hand example 3, hero is in the cutoff and the nit is on the button. Pre-flop, hero raises and the nit calls. The small blind and big blind fold. The flop comes up, ace of clubs, 10 of hearts, 2 of hearts, giving hero top pair, top kicker. So hero bets and the nit raises. Hero should fold here. The problem is there aren't that many draw hands that I would expect a nit to call with pre-flop. Let's assume that the nit would have 3-bet pre-flop with traditional premium hands such as aces and ace-queen suited. On the flop, that leaves just 6 combos in total of sets, of tens and twos. If we assume that the nit would only call with suited hands in the Broadway range, there are only 2 combos that he could have that have given him a flush draw, and these are ace-jack of hearts and queen-jack of hearts. The king of hearts in hero's hand blocks all Broadway combos that include a king, while the 10 of hearts blocks all Broadway combos that contain a 10. So we have 6 combos of sets and 2 combos of flush draws that a nit might possibly raise on the flop with. Although I would generally fold, I would look at the bet size or the raise size before deciding. Many nits have bet size tells. If the nit has a set, he would be scared of the draw. In this case, I would expect the raise to be big. If the nit was on a draw, he would be scared of losing money. In this case, I would expect the raise to be closer to a min raise. In the example hand, the raise is much larger than a min raise, therefore it's best to fold. The best way to beat nits is to win pots when they're not crazy about their hand, or if they have a set and you have a better set. If a nit likes his hand, it's usually best to get out of his way. So that's all for this video. Please subscribe and like if you want to see more of these types of videos.